Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Arc. Happy Thursday. Nicole Moss here, John Gonzalez. John, listen, there's a lot to get into today. Surprisingly, there were some decent NBA games on last night. It could have been hit or miss. The schedule was looking a
Okay.
little wonky. Okay,
Yeah.
but we had some good ones. Some came down to the wire. I don't know if you watched Heat Cavaliers. That ended up being a better game than I think a lot of people expected,
Mhm.
especially myself as a Knicks fan. I was hoping it was going to lean to one side. It didn't actually do that for me, but that's what I get for relying on a team that's not the Knicks.
Yeah, weird night in the NBA, especially with, Bucks and Celtics. I thought that game was gonna be a complete blowout, and it looked like it was gonna be, and then all of a sudden the Bucks rallied in the 4th.
Yeah, we're going to actually dive into Bucks Celtics right now. To your point, Bucks did rally in the fourth quarter. It was not enough though to beat the Celtics. Damian Lillard had an incredible game. Interesting
Mhm.
stat line about him, 2-and-run record without Giannis in the lineup. 41 points, 31 points, 32 points. Both Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis, former New York Knick Bobby Portis, had themselves a game, both over 20 points for them individually, but again, still not enough to take down the Boston Celtics. I'm interested. I mean, obviously, we can dive into, the X's and the O's, but I think the overall picture here is there are some concerns about this, the Bucks, at least when it comes to their health down the stretch in the playoffs. If it's not Chris Middleton, it's Giannis, or it's the both of them together. But I mean, we saw last night that even without their star Giannis, they were able to make it a game. But is that more of just a flash in the pan, or is that something that we could see actually happen in a series between the two of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, without Giannis, I don't give them, much of a chance against the Celtics despite what happened last night. Yeah, they were down 21 in the 4th and they came back, and good for them. It was a nice comeback for them. It showed some fight. They didn't give up. But ultimately, if you're gonna have any shot against the Boston Celtics, you're gonna need Giannis in there and you're gonna need him healthy because, the Celtics didn't have Drew Holiday last night either, and
Mhm.
Giannis is a matchup problem for everybody. I mean, the Celtics are a fantastic defensive team. They've been a really good defensive team all season long, one of the best in the league. And their 1 through 6 guys can pretty much guard anybody. But when you look at Giannis, like, who are you throwing on him? I mean, Tatum probably is the guy that you want to throw
Yeah.
there. But sometimes when Giannis is in the paint, like KP is a little thin, right? Drew Holiday is an excellent defender and can really switch 1 through 5, but he's a little small compared to Giannis. So it's a matchup problem no matter who they throw on him. But even if you do have Giannis, the Celtics have been yeah, and they've tried Al Horford as well on Giannis to varying degrees of success, because he's Giannis, right? I mean, like, you can try whatever you want on him, and he's still going to get his points, and he's going to, when he gets going downhill, he's an absolute monster, and you don't want to get in front of him. But actually, the Celtics have been the best team in the NBA all season long for a reason, and they are blowing the doors off the Eastern Conference. They're 11 games up on the Bucks right now after the
Right.
the win last night, and I believe their magic number, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's down to 3.
It's
Yeah,
three.
yeah,
Three
it's
is the magic
ridiculous.
number. I mean,
Yeah,
3 is the magic number with one of the 3 being the Detroit Pistons. So, I mean, it's
sure.
it's it's really 2 is the magic number for them.
Yeah, of
But I mean,
course.
we're talking about this Bucks team again. Bobby Portis, for those who don't know, 24-15 from him. Just crazy stat line
Mhm.
last night. Great game. But again, there are a lot of questions about the health of this team. And I think that yes, when you have talent, when you have, star power, there's always a chance. But what good is that if it's not available? And even Giannis at say 75%, 80%, is that enough? Do you trust that enough to go ahead and face off against a Boston Celtics team? That listen, I still think Bucks Celtics, regardless of what transpires, the next few days, the next few games of the regular season, I still believe that this is our Eastern Conference Finals matchup. I still think it's a strong, strong possibility, but I am very concerned if it's not the Achilles for Giannis, it's the hamstring. It seems to go back and forth. Chris Middleton, every time he hits the floor, there was a moment he hit the floor last night and was slow to get up, and I was like, well, this is another one for the Bucks. It seems that they cannot stay healthy this time of the year. And it's something that's starting to become, I feel like, a habit. We've seen this story from the Bucks before, and it's affected them at the worst possible time.
Yeah, and Dame missed some time earlier this season too, right? And you so like Dame was out, and then Chris Middleton comes back, and then Dame's back, and then Giannis goes out. So they haven't really had their
It's like the
best three
Suns.
players. Yeah, they haven't had their best three players on the floor for very long. And then on top of that, they go in the middle of the regular season and they replace their head coach, Adrian Griffin. They bring in Doc Rivers. And defensively, they have been better under Doc. I mean, it took a second to get it going, especially in transition. Their transition defense was abhorrent earlier in the season.
Right.
And it's gotten much better. And their point of attack defense has also gotten much better. But I do think that there's some concern, not just about health, but also about, hey, continuity, right? Like, how do you play together with these three guys? So once you get Giannis back, it's going to take a second to figure out everybody's rhythm and who likes the ball where, and when is it my turn, when is it yours. But beyond that, I just think it's a really tall order, even if it is Bucks and Celtics in the conference finals. And you're right, I think that's probably the most likely. But somebody's
The
going to
Knicks
have.
do have a chance. The Knicks do have a chance. All right, I'm not
Sure,
saying that because I don't believe it. I'm just saying the Knicks have a chance.
yeah, I'll give the
Okay.
Knicks a shot. I mean, when they're healthy, they've looked really good, right?
Right.
But somebody's going to have to face the Celtics. I believe the Celtics will be in the conference finals. So somebody will have to play them. They can't just play themselves. I don't give anybody really a shot against the Celtics in the Eastern Conference. Anybody who's going to unseat the Celtics is going to have to come out of the Western Conference. Because when you look at the numbers, I mean, in addition to having an 11-game lead over the entire Eastern Conference, which is just really wild, their point differential, they're plus 11.5 per game. There's nobody else that's even half of that.
Right.
Right. I mean, the next highest in the Eastern Conference is your New York Knicks at plus 4.1 point differential per game, which is nice and it's admirable. And they've looked really good. And I've sung the praises of guys like Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart and certainly OG Anunoby and blah, blah, blah. The Celtics are far, and I hate this, and I know you do too. They are so much better than everybody else in the East that it's almost kind of laughable.
I want to dive into two separate issues. First, I want to start with the Bucks, and then I'm going to go to the Celtics. But first, with the Bucks, I mean, yes, we're talking about the health of the players and all of that and the continuity. Middleton, Giannis, and Dame have barely played together under Doc Rivers. And I wonder, we have a lot to say about Doc Rivers. We had a lot to say when Doc Rivers, took over for Adrian Griffin. And let's go ahead and play the scenario that you don't have Giannis for a certain amount of games, or you don't have Chris Middleton, or you don't have a combination of the two, or you don't have Dame. Insert a player, you don't have him. How confident, given Doc Rivers' track record in the postseason when it means the most, how confident would you be in him to make the proper adjustments to give the Bucks a fighting chance to possibly win a series, even if it's not against the Celtics, even if we're talking first round, second round, where we have seen if the Bucks are not at full strength, they're very much beatable, a lot more beatable than they are when you have all their guys together. Do you trust Doc Rivers to make the proper adjustments for that to not be their kryptonite? Because I'm like 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, give Doc his credit where it's due. I mean, you're right. In the past, getting out of the second round has not been his forte, right? I mean, he didn't do it with the Clippers for years and years and years. Lob City was talking about. I remember when I first moved out to LA, I had a conversation with JJ Redick, who was on the team at the time, and the narrative around that team was, "Yo, you guys can't get out of the second round. What's the deal?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course that's the narrative. It's going to be the narrative until we actually do it, and we will." And then, spoiler alert for everybody who missed it, they did not. And then Doc goes to the Sixers, same deal happens. The narrative around the Sixers was, yo, they can't get out of the second round. And Doc's like, we're going to do it. It's not a problem. Then once again, spoiler alert, they couldn't pull it off. So yeah, that is a legitimate gripe for Doc. Can he get out of the second round? Because he's only really done it with the Celtics. I will say though, again, to give Doc his credit, they've been a pretty good offensive team all year. They've got the fourth best offensive rating in the league this year. But as I mentioned earlier, they've had a problem defensively, right? I mean, they were in the 20s before Doc came along. And since Doc has been there, they have climbed up. They're still not a great defensive team, but overall for the season, they've climbed up to 19th on the year. And they're much better than that since Doc took over. So he did look at it and go, man, that defense is not great. We got to fix it. Transition, as I mentioned, was really bad, and point of attack was really bad. And he keyed on that right away. And he also installed some plays that, are basic, sideline out of bounds and after timeout plays. So he has made some adjustments, but yes, it's fair to ask, hey, can Doc get them over the hump in the second round? Because he hasn't done it in a while.
Now, on the other side of things, I mean, any concern about the Boston Celtics when it comes to how wonky they looked last night, last couple of games, and sometimes even against teams that are ranked at their level, whether it's on the West Coast or whatever the case may be in terms of ratings and things like that. Is it just, listen, we're tired of winning, we're ready for the playoffs to happen? Or is there any concern about sometimes how they go ahead and play their game plan, their schemes when it comes to playing certain teams?
No, this team is really good. The only time that they've stumbled all season long was against the Denver Nuggets. They have the best record in the
Yeah.
NBA against teams over 500. They also have the best record in the NBA period, but they have the best record in the NBA against winning teams for a reason. I mean, their 1-6 is absolutely ridiculous. And then their bench last night when they were opening up that lead, Ash, Sam Hauser was draining threes from like Wellesley. That's a joke for Boston people, but it's very far outside of Boston. And he was just canning threes all night long. And it's like, all right, this is ridiculous. Like, I hate this team. They're next to infallible, even when they don't have a guy like Jrue Holiday out there, who's such a luxury for them. They brought him in, right? And they already had a loaded team, and they bring in Jrue Holiday, and they're like, Jrue, you can be our 5th or 6th best player. So no, unless they play the Denver Nuggets, I have no concerns about them.
I think the only thing that, I mean, I say concern if I had to nitpick at the Boston
Yeah,
Celtics,
that's fair.
which is very easy for me to do as a New Yorker. But I think something that we've noticed about the Boston Celtics, they rely heavily on the 3-point shot. And as we all know, you live by the 3, you die by the 3, and sometimes those shots don't fall. And you have seen in situations where their shots aren't falling and they're not falling consistently throughout the whole game, they do struggle a little bit. And some teams will take advantage of that. Most are unable to because of just how good the Boston Celtics are everywhere else. But any concern about that going into the playoffs, because we've seen them do that, run that same scenario over and over again, and it kind of work against them in certain situations. I can think about, what was it, the Hawks series last year, where it ended up going 7 games, and it probably shouldn't have even gone more than that. I mean, more than 4, but it did. It was insane because of that reliance on the 3 ball.
Yeah, they definitely do. They take the most threes. They also shoot the highest percentage of behind the arc. They have the best percentage behind the arc in the NBA. But you're right. When they have played certain teams like the Denver Nuggets, when they weren't shooting the 3 well, they ended up losing and not looking that good. So yeah, that's a fair concern. I would say though, offensively and defensively, they're juggernauts, right? I mean, they have the number 1 offensive rating in the NBA and the number 2 defensive rating in the NBA behind only the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're really good at both ends of the floor. So yeah, if the 3's not falling, that's a concern. But then I look at their defense and go, oh, well, they can still win a game with their defense. And here's the other thing. 1-6 all play defense. 1-6 can all shoot the 3. So if one guy is cold, you've got so many other options. Producer Aaron brings up a good point, and this has been something of a concern for the Celtics if we're going to nitpick, because that's all it is at this point with this team. Their fourth quarter why not? Their fourth quarter execution hasn't always been stellar, and on a previous podcast, with Bill, you and I had discussed this, but Jason Tatum's clutch stats, not great. He hasn't shot really well in the fourth quarter. There was a play earlier in this year when they're on that 11-game win streak and they lost to the Cavs, where they basically they didn't even draw up a play. They had 2 timeouts. They didn't call one. They just let Jason Tatum go into iso ball mode, and he had 2 defenders on him, and he jacked up a mid-range fall away, and they lost the game. And I'm like, that wasn't so great. So if we're going to nitpick, that might be one of them.
Well, I mean, from problems on the court, or you know what, we want to break out of this? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a break real quick. And when we come back, we're going to talk about, listen, you and Bill had a very interesting conversation about gambling. We're going to talk about the not so great side of gambling. And we may or may not have a special guest that's going to be joining us, but you got to come back to see who that may be. We'll be right back.
For the last 4 years, I've been a prisoner of this hotel.
G-sharp, I believe.
Why are they keeping you here? Why do they let you live?
Most of my friends are dead. My house was seized and burned.
You must never leave. If you do, I'll be waiting.
They can take away everything. But they can't take away who you are.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Ash and Nicole Moss here, John Gonzalez. And John, you and Bill had an interesting conversation yesterday about gambling and, expanding gambling and all of the good sides of gambling, if you will. But there's a dark side to the world of sports betting. And head coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers, JB Bickerstaff, let us in on exactly what that dark side is. Hearing this story was frightening, and it just goes to show how insane people are about their parlays and things that are, again, for all the sports bettors out of there, out of your control. You have no control over the outcome of these things. As much as you like to think you do, you don't. He shared with the media yesterday that he and his family have received threats over lost bets and parlays. He said that people have found his phone number, calling and threatening him and his family over the last 2 years. He said, quote, "It crossed a line for sure." 2 years, John? 2
Yeah.
years?
Yeah, it's not great. And for context, it's potentially getting worse because what Bill and I were discussing yesterday was the league's new initiative. They decided to place live odds on the League Pass app. So now through the officially sanctioned league app, through their official league gambling partners, you'll be able to watch a game and gamble in states where it's legal, place bets through the app in the NBA. And so JB, when he brings this up, I think has a legitimate gripe because this has been coming for some time, right? Where you're going to get some blowback on, hey, how are players dealing with it? I know that Tyrese Haliburton talked about it as well, where he said it hasn't been great. We saw Rudy Gobert earlier in the season. He got fined $100,000 for making a money gesture at the referees, and then afterwards saying that the league has a gambling problem.
Yeah.
And it very well might, right? I mean, we've been headed down this road for a while because look, where the Cavs play, they have a sports book in the arena. Same at the Wizards. And then right next to the Suns, there's a sports book, Caesar's sports book in between that and, Guy Fieri's Flavortown, which I absolutely love. Shouts to Guy Fieri. But, people are going to place bets regardless, but this kind of ripple effect is not great.
I mean, you mentioned Tyrese Haliburton, and he spoke on this very topic, and he said, not everybody cares to hear how we feel. To half of the world, I'm just helping them make money on DraftKings or whatever. I'm a prop. And it's interesting because at one point it was just like fantasy, right? I remember, fantasy football was like the thing. And, you would hear football players all the time say, I don't care about, your lineup or your fantasy league. This is my real life. And that was just fantasy where like, if you wanted to go ahead and play for money, that was between you and your fantasy football group, but it wasn't like it was legal to do so on an app or at a sports book or at a casino, wherever the case may be. Now it's just completely taken over sports. I mean, there's not a time that you can be watching a game and you don't see a commercial or multiple commercials in a break for not just one, but multiple sports betting apps, houses, facilities, you name it, it's there. And it definitely is. Listen, it's the way that the industry is kind of going. As we know, there's a lot of money being put behind this. But on the other side, listen, Rudy Gobert did have a point. Once upon a time, it's not like it was unheard of referees taking, side money from the mob to make sure that certain things happened in games. Now it's just kind of like front and center.
Yeah, I mean, I'm old enough to remember. Well, I'm old enough to remember a lot of things. You're too young probably to remember this, but it was 17 years ago that the NBA had a massive gambling scandal with a referee named Tim Donaghy, who was from my neck of the woods outside of Philadelphia, and it became a good old Philly. I mean, like rigging games, right? And like he had massive gambling debts. It was uncovered, and he got drummed out of the league in an FBI investigation and did jail time, and then wrote a book about it afterwards. And it was a huge problem for the league. Now, the league wants to avoid all of that, right? However, once you go down the gambling road, and we're like so far down it now, you're never going to go back.
Right.
There's going to be increased scrutiny on these calls, right? I mean, the referees make a certain amount of money, and I'm sure that they're well compensated, but there's always more money to be made. And people are going to wonder, oh, that late game call, why was that whistle happening? Or why didn't that whistle happen? Or even if there wasn't nefarious intent, people are going to get angry in the same way that they've gotten angry at JB Bickerstaff talking about how come you took so-and-so out of the game and you didn't cover the over. So this is something that the league has decided to do. It's a business decision. It's not surprising because there's a lot of money to be made, but there are ramifications here.
We're going to dive into some quick hitters, but I mean, last point on this, people already think that the NFL, the NBA, all these sports are rigged. This is not helping the matter of combating the narrative that there is a script that is handed out at the beginning of each season that everyone is having to follow. This is not helping the cause. I'm just going to leave it there. All right. So some quick hitters. The Houston Rockets are now 3 games behind the Warriors for the final play-in spot in the Western Conference. Is there a cause for concern in Golden State?
No. The chances of the Rockets making into the playoffs are extremely slim. There's not enough time left. It would have to be an absolute abject collapse by the Warriors or the Lakers for the Rockets to overtake them. That said, man, the Rockets are fun all of a sudden, right? I mean, they have the
are
longest
a little
winning,
bit too late.
right?
Just a little bit too
Well,
late, but
well,
they're fun.
you know, in a weird way, so I'm of two minds on this. Like on the one hand, you know, this wasn't supposed to be their season anyway. It's not going to be their season anyway. Ime is like trying to build something in Houston, and I think that's fine. And they're on a win streak, and they're playing through their young players, and they're doing it, by the way, without my guy Alperen Şengün, who I've mentioned on the pod quite a few times, who's like mini Joker, and I love that dude. But in his absence, they've kind of stumbled onto something. You and I had previously besmirched the good reputation of one Jalen Green. Since then, he's been gangbusters. He's playing crazy.
It's a new
Jabari
motivation in life, John.
Yeah, we did that. We motivated him to play well. Jabari Smith is playing great. Amen Thompson can't shoot a lick, but other than that, he's so fun. He's awesome in transition. He rebounds, he passes, he plays great defense, he jumps out of the gym. So I think they're onto something here, Ash. And next year, as I mentioned in our Beyond the Arc text chain, they're going to be every NBA hipster fan's favorite league pass team. They're going to be
not an NBA hipster.
They are. It's like a low key under the. They're the new OKC.
Are they like the Williamsburg of the NBA?
Yeah.
Park Slope, the Williamsburg of NBA.
I think though the reason why I was of two minds is because they might be winning a little too much. They have a top 4 protected first round pick.
Yes.
And the way it's going right now doesn't look like they're going to have that pick. So I don't know, but it's fun. It's a fun team.
Well, from some guys on that team who can't shoot to one guy who can always shoot, that's Kevin Durant. He officially passed Shaquille O'Neal for 8th place on the NBA's all-time scoring list last night with 28,597, which is 1 point more than Shaquille O'Neal. And it was interesting because Shaq gave I guess you could say a congratulations video, but it was odd. He basically said, look, if anyone was going to pass me, it was going to be you, but there's more work to be done. It's kind of like, damn, can I have like 60 seconds of just like relishing in the moment before you yank it back away from me? But Shaq is who he is, and he's never going to give you everything that you want. So you got to take the little piece that you get. But Kevin Durant, 8th on the NBA all-time scoring leaders. There's been a lot of talk about Kevin Durant in the media with his everlasting beef with Draymond Green. I thought they, buried the hatchet when they did the whole sit down, the Kobe Shaq sit down where they're face to face. And it's like, you did this and you did this. And clearly Draymond is still harboring animosity because he said that Kyrie Irving is the scorer that everyone thinks Kevin Durant is. But KD's having the last laugh. So I wonder how Draymond feels about this one.
It's not even remotely close to over for KD. He's 35, right? Like Shaq going, if somebody was going to pass me, it was going to be you. I got bad news for you, Shaq. A lot of guys are going to pass you. You're not 1 or 2 or 5. You're 8, and KD's 35. He's not 45. This was an inevitability. I don't know what you're talking about here. As for Draymond, we discussed this yesterday on the podcast with Bill, and I think it's kind of funny. I think you're exactly right. Draymond just can't let it go.
He can't.
Right?
He's like a dog with a bone.
Yeah, he just cannot let it go. Although I do kind of think it's a little bit of part of it is Draymond can't help himself, right? Because he's Draymond and like that's his default position is just like being a nudge and like poking people. But also I think part of it is just like a little Draymond gamesmanship where he's like trying to needle, get under guys' skin, and like some guys can handle it and some guys can't. And KD's been both in his career. Sometimes he can deal with it and sometimes he can't.
It's just so interesting to me. It's like how many times do we gotta? And then you remember when the Warriors and the Suns played each other this season. And I think the Warriors beat the Suns, and you see Draymond, he's staring down KD. He's like, this is our house. You could have been here. Like, it's like, damn, man, like, let it go. I've moved on. Let me leave. KD is 3,000 away from Wilt in 7th, and then Dirk in 6th, 4,000 away from MJ in 5th, 5,000 away from Kobe in 4th. If you had to go ahead and place a bet, where do you think KD ends up?
For sure, he'll pass Wilt and Dirk, and then it gets dicey. How long is he playing? Could reach MJ. I'd be surprised if he gets to Kobe. That's a lot. That
That's a lot of points.
5K
Yeah.
is a lot of points, and he is. We mentioned 35. So does he have another, 5, 6, 7 seasons in him? And then he can eclipse Kobe as well. But I don't know. I don't know how much longer he wants to play. He doesn't look like he's slowing down right now. He still looks like KD.
Doesn't. I would say if I had to go ahead and place a bet, I think he ties MJ for 5th. I don't know if he surpasses him.
You think he's going to tie him? He's
I
going
think he'll
to
tie
nail
for
the
5th.
exact number of points.
I mean, maybe. I mean, we've seen. I think he'll tie for 5th. I don't know, surpassing 5. I don't know. You say 35 is not old. It's
Under
not.
or over on this. There's no push
I mean,
on 5th place for points.
but I will say I do agree with you. I don't think he's going to ever touch Kobe. 5,000 is a lot of points. I mean, 4,000 is a lot of points though if you're 35 years old. And also, we're saying we don't see KD slowing down anytime soon. That's probably a safe bet. But we're also talking about a guy who's had 2 major injuries, who's on a team that he has to do so much of the work in order for them to succeed, especially, with Devin Booker being in and out because of injuries, because of Bradley Beal being in and out. The responsibility is so much on KD. My only concern is I wonder how much that responsibility is going to affect KD's longevity when it comes to playing maybe until he's 40. I mean, at this point, you would hope that some of that responsibility is a little bit more evenly distributed than it has been with this Phoenix Suns team.
I'm looking at his points scored here because I'm going to do a little math. We can do a little math. I mean, for all but, and you mentioned a couple of his injury seasons, right?
Yeah.
For all but 1, 2, 3 seasons, he scored well over 1,000 points per season. This season, he's already up to 1,700. He's had seasons when he's hit, in MVP candidate seasons, he's hit 2,500. He's gone over 2,000 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. So maybe, you know what? I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna go back and say that he will pass Kobe.
Wow.
He has the time. I mean, if he's 5,000 away from Kobe, it looks like it's pretty much a lock now that I've done the math.
Aaron gives us a little bit more of a breakdown. Our producer Aaron, 1,750 points is 70 games at 25 points per game, and 3,500 is 2 seasons of 70 games at 25 points per game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to go with what he's done in the past and extrapolate forward. I mean, he's gone well over, as I mentioned, the 1,500 mark for the vast majority of his career. So that would be what, 3.5 of his seasons. So yeah.
Okay, so when it's all said and done, KD, Kobe. To pass Kobe, he needs 3 seasons of 70 games with 25 points per game. That's very doable.
That's very
Kevin
doable.
Durant, at least.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, it's a little bit of a longevity thing, but he's still got some time. And yeah, now that I've looked at the numbers, I'd bet on him to pass Kobe. Yeah.
All right. So listen, from Kevin Durant to a guy that knows KD pretty well, Kyrie Irving. I was in the building with that incredible left hook shot where Kyrie Irving won the game for the Dallas Mavericks. But I think the more impressive thing about that
Where were you sitting
entire
for
game,
that, by the way?
Huh?
Where were you sitting for that?
I was on the court. So
oh, you were riding leather. You're sitting courtside.
I was on the hardwood. You know what I mean?
Okay, all right.
The wood. It was absolutely incredible. But I think the more incredible thing about that is, for people who don't know, Kyrie is currently fasting for Ramadan, which means that he cannot eat until the sun goes down. So when that game was being played, he was currently on a fast. And the Dallas Mavericks, just much to their credit, I mean, they're obviously a team first organization, a player first organization. News broke that the Mavericks have had a personal chef being flown in to away games and having him there for home games as well to prepare vegan meals for Kyrie. So the minute the sun goes down, he can break his fast. He's doing so with a full balanced meal, which is just such a drastic contrast to him on the Brooklyn Nets, where I don't know if you remember, he ran back into the tunnel to the locker room and came out with a banana and is on the sidelines eating a banana as the sun went down so he could break fast. Vegan meals, banana, not the same thing.
I guess a banana would technically be a vegan meal, right?
I guess, but it's
That
not a full
that would qualify.
balanced vegan meal.
I mean, you got to get your potassium.
Yeah.
I do like bananas, but yes, this is impressive for the Mavs. They should do something like this. And also, it's really incredible that Kyrie can play at that level. I mean, I know that players have talked about this previously,
Right.
and also this season, and the media has discussed it as well. Now we're talking about it. But for him to fast during an NBA season, I mean, the amount of calories that NBA players burn through in a given game is an
I
outrageous
know.
number. And especially now with so much emphasis on eating healthy, making sure that you get the proper amount of rest, et cetera, to have your body properly fueled for all these games. It's hard enough to play an NBA game when you are properly fueled, let alone when you're doing what Kyrie is doing. So all credit to him for following his faith and being able to pull this off. It is really an impressive physical feat. And mental feat.
So impressive. I mean, we've seen it before throughout the history of the NBA with so many different players, but it doesn't get any less impressive to be. I can't even function when I haven't eaten for
You get a little hangry?
I am the queen of hangry. I get mean, I get nasty. I could not even imagine playing 4 quarters of basketball at the level that Kyrie Irving does and winning games. Not even just being out there getting cardio, but being an actual asset to winning games and doing that completely with an empty stomach, no water, listen.
This is good to know. We're going to need to feed you before every podcast from now on.
Absolutely. Listen, we will be right back after this break, and we have a special guest that's going to be joining us, so you don't want to miss that. Hang on tight. We'll be right back.
The blackout mystery remains.
Welcome to March Madness.
You just never know in the tournament who is going to shine.
Stream March Madness live on any device, anywhere, and be ready for anything.
Welcome back to Beyond the Arc, everybody. Ashley Nicole Moss here, John Gonzalez, and we have our special guest in the building, NBA vet, legend, whatever you want to refer to him as, Baron Davis in the house. Welcome to the show, BD.
What's happening, Ash? What's happening?
What's going on? How are you? How have you been?
I'm good. I'm in LA. The weather is kind of so-so. It's never been this cold in Southern California, so I think Tony needs to make a new song. No, I'm good. I'm good. Sports season, Clippers, Lakers balling, Warriors balling. You know, it's good times in California.
I know John made note of your shirt.
Yes. I wanted to thank you for knowing your audience and coming on to Beyond the Arc wearing a Sixers logo. Very nice.
This is a throwback All-Star Weekend shirt that I had when I made the All-Star game. And look how big this shirt is, man. It's ridiculous. Like, why was I wearing a 2-3X? But this is
2 of you in there.
All-Star Weekend. So shout out to you.
I gotta push back though, because John traded in his fandom for the 76ers for OKC and the Thunder a few months ago. So he's really no longer even a 76ers fan. So I don't know why he's so excited to see you wearing the shirt.
Oh,
yeah, fair enough.
You got to take
yeah. I mean, look, I'm from Philly, Baron, and it's been tough for, let me think about this for a while, forever as a Sixers fan. So OKC's been fun this year.
Yeah, OKC's definitely been.
Not froze. I'm just saying, like, what?
I thought you were froze.
Like, bro, that's no rationale. Like, okay, they're fun. Like, so what? You know what I mean? Like, so what? I'm a Raider fan, and I don't be like, oh, the Cowboys or the Niners are fun to watch. Like, no, we hate everybody. Like,
yeah. Don't worry. I still hate everybody.
Or you should move to OKC or take that 76er jerseys down, buddy.
He actually is moving to OKC. That's so funny that you knew that. He's building a house out there and everything.
Ashley's doing inside jokes that Baron is unaware of. But yeah, I'm not going to move to OKC anytime. And you don't have to worry about me hating everybody because that's natural for Philadelphians. So we're still good on that.
But are you an OKC fan?
No, I mean, I like what she's kidding around, but I really enjoy watching that team. I think that they're a super fun team. Yeah, SGA, right? I mean,
no, they got squad.
They're a great watch. But
Baron, before we dive into some basketball talk, because obviously we want to get into so many things regarding the NBA with you, we have to talk about Simple Human. I have to tell you, when my mom found out that I was doing this, she was very excited because she is a very loyal customer of the brand. She was giving me all the kitchen gadgets she has. She has a trash can, the one you wave your hand over and it opens up. She has the dispenser for the soap where you wave your hand under, the soap comes out. She has the refillable soap. She has the paper towel holder. I mean, it's actually insane.
Come on.
It's very insane.
One of my for the cell phone, my cell phone cleaner.
Oh,
Yeah.
they have a cell phone cleaner?
Yeah, I got a cell phone cleaner.
Okay.
Features in our Simple Human campaign that we got cracking. Shout out to Simple Human. Not only great product, but great people. You know, they're big in the community. Last year we did a Simple Human waste basket challenge, and they gave away scholarships and scholarship money to the Drew and to some other people.
Love that.
You know, and so, you know, I love them because, you know, they're socially responsible. They do cool stuff, and the products are like super dope. I gotta send me the address so I can send y'all some stuff.
For sure. My mom will be
She's not kidding.
No, I'm not.
We heard her mom was very excited.
I have a list on my phone of all the gadgets she told me to mention that she is a owner of. Yeah. And there's probably more. She's
the vanity mirror.
Huh?
Does she have the vanity mirror?
No, I think because like the bathroom has like its vanity mirror, but I'm telling you, if there's a kitchen gadget that Simple Human makes, she owns it in some way, shape, or form. Like it's a serious thing. But the Simple Baron series, tell us a little bit about that and what we can expect.
Oh, it's nothing serious. I approached Simple Human, you know, I have an ambassadorship and they trust my creative. So, you know, I wanted to do something that was more brand centric. So I created a more simplified version of myself called Simple Baron. And then I went to intern at Simple Human for about 3 or 4 days until my internship really didn't work out. So I filmed it all, filmed every day. And it's, you know, just kind of like short, fun content, almost like reality, you know, like my reality content about my, you know, Simple Baron approach to making Simple Human a better company. And so, you know, it was fun. Shout out to my co-producer, writer, director, Carl Reed. We do a lot of this stuff together. I had a show called WTF Baron Davis. The execs at Simple Human, you know, they love the show and they were like, yo, can you do something that's brand friendly along these lines? And so it gave us an opportunity, you know, to sit and write and like come up with, you know, a fun concept. So, you know, I am now, because of that, trying to simplify my life more. And I have a lot of Simple Human products in my world. So it's doing the trick.
Is this your first internship? Have you ever had an internship before?
Yeah, I would say this is my first internship. I really got fired from. That didn't, you know, it didn't quite work out. But you know, I'm still a part of the brand. I don't think an intern is, you know, I didn't really read the instructions on what an intern is, as opposed to like who I am and what I wanted to be for the company. So
got it. Okay, yeah. Baron Davis, not an intern, but what you are is an NBA vet, a legend. So let's dive into some basketball. John, why don't you kick things off for us?
Yeah, I mean, you're here in LA. I also live in LA now, despite being from Philadelphia, but yeah, I'm all over the place. But you mentioned the Lakers and the Warriors and the Clippers, and I want to start with the 2 LA teams for you here. Clippers, they won last night. They beat Portland. They had been on a little bit of a slide. Level of concern for them because they were balling to begin after they got James Harden. And then recently PG comes out and goes, we don't have an identity. Kawhi says it's between our ears. Sounds a little dangerous. What's that like if you're a player and you hear your stars say something like that?
Well, it's just a sense of urgency. Right? It's like they're running out of time. You're running out of games. And, you know, when you roll in, everything's great. When you hit some adversity, everything's not. You know, but it's not that it's not great. It's just you're more like mad scientists in a room trying to figure it out. right? And a lot of times it's like it can happen in the room, it can happen on the court, it can happen in a moment, it can happen in a series of plays to turn it around. And I think when you get guys like that, they're actually challenging each other. You know what I mean? And so you have a bunch of alpha dogs, and so you'll find the disconnectivity at times, but sometimes you need to disconnect the system to re-engineer it to get ready for the playoffs. And so that sense of urgency and those dudes saying what they're saying, is really trying to self-motivate, to do some self-motivation and some
Mhm.
self-cleanup before there's no agendas heading into the playoffs.
I mean, obviously, LA has always been the Lakers town, if you will. But I feel like this is the first Clippers team since the Lob City Clippers where there are just so many hoopers, legendary hoopers on one team. Kawhi, Paul George, Westbrook, Harden. I mean,
Yeah.
how cool is that? Not only for the city of LA, but for the Clippers organization. I mean, look, LeBron's getting older. The Lakers are not the Lakers of the Kobe Bryant era, Shaquille O'Neal era, Pau Gasol era. Is this maybe what the Clippers need, the city needs to kind of change the tide just a little bit, just a tad?
Yeah, we were just talking about that on my new show, Slick Talk. I gotta do a plug that we're
Nice.
releasing. But it was like, do the Clippers have, did the Lakers lose some soul and leave the door a little bit wider open for the Clippers to come in and really claim, their own stake in LA? I would say that was kind of like my take on it is like, you know, the Lakers are the Lakers. They've never had to do any marketing. They've never had to do
True.
anything but just win championships. And so, we've seen the Lakers before like this, even in the Kobe era where they didn't make the playoffs and they had some turmoil, and had some young guys and, but it was still the Lakers. You know what I mean? And there was still an affinity and an ownership in the city. I think the Clippers have an opportunity to do that. Obviously, winning a championship will fast track that, but there's also, having these guys from LA uh, and Southern California on the team, right? I think it's worked for the Clippers to do in the city, right? And so, what identity are the Clippers going to claim, right? And
Hmm.
so who in LA are you going to claim? Who in LA are you going to allow to have access? Who are you going to, treat with legacy in LA to basically help build and reinforce and always reestablish your legacy, whether you win or lose, right? So, the Clippers have a lot more room and a lot more capacity to kind of seize that window. If they win, that'll accelerate a lot because they'll get a lot of fans coming over. They'll get implants and then they'll get a bunch of homegrown kids coming up. So, it's all about winning. But I also think that the Clippers right now with the players they have, they can really claim an identity, especially with the Intuit Dome. They're doing the jerseys of all the high school
Mhm.
teams. They're trying to, move in that direction of establishing a culture for the Clippers that LA can adopt as well.
Ashley Nicole Moss here, John Gonzalez, and Baron Davis on behalf of Simple Human. BD, we're going to get into a few more NBA questions with you. I want to shift gears, though, to my coast, the best coast, and that's the East Coast. And I want to talk to you about the New York Knicks. How good are my New York Knicks this year? How exciting is it to finally see a Knicks team that is really in this thing?
It's incredible, to see the type of chemistry they have, Jalen Brunson, what he's doing. But it's like they have a great unit of glue guys and guys
Mhm.
who are really complementary, right? So you look at the Josh Harts, right, and the way he's playing, DiVincenzo, the way he's playing, OG, right, and what he brings to them. I'm just excited to see Julius Randle back. You know what I mean? I want to see that happen. And I want to see the Knicks at full force because they actually have the team, the talent, and the chemistry to really compete, and come out of the East. And then they do have that superstar player that, is an unguardable player. Not only is he a scorer, but he's smart enough, to know how to win games at the end. And that's what you need heading into the playoffs. You need tough defense. You need role guys who are not afraid to step up, shoot big baskets, make shots, right? But you also need that star player that's going to put you on the back and make great decisions down the stretch, and that is Jalen Brunson.
You heard that, John? Come out the East.
Yeah, I knew that you were going to get a Knicks question in there. I'm going to save Barron and the listeners from me asking a Sixers question. I want to bring it back to the West Coast. So you played for the Warriors for a long time, and obviously you're an LA guy. And right now it looks like the Lakers and the Warriors are headed on a collision course for a 9-10 play-in game, which would be amazing for us, but probably not so great for the NBA because you're going to lose one of those teams before you even get into the playoffs. What kind of game do you think that would be? Who do you like to get out of that game? And what kind of, I mean, it feels like it would be a major bummer for the NBA to lose one of them before we even get going.
I mean, who you going to take out?
That's what I'm saying.
Dallas, Phoenix, OKC, Sacramento, Clippers, Denver. Who else am I missing? Minnesota. Who are you taking out? It got to happen that way. You know what I mean? Yeah. I like it because the Warriors are rolling and they would be fun to watch in the playoffs, like as they're starting to play better, Kuminga, all those guys. I think the Lakers is really, I always say the Lakers are two things. It's AD and D'Lo, right? If AD is cooking and D'Lo is cooking, then the Lakers are a tough team to beat. But the Lakers have to find their way through AD. You know what I mean? I think that he is he's the go-to guy on offense, and definitely the go-to guy on defense.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're looking at a Warrior-Laker matchup, it's really, can Draymond Green disrupt Anthony Davis?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
The answer is yes.
And can Anthony Davis dominate, despite, Draymond or whomever? Can he still be able to score the basketball and be an intimidator, out there in the paint? Because it's going to disrupt Steph, Clay, with them going to the hole. AD is one of the best shot blockers, in our game. So, I think that it's going to be a great matchup. It's going to be unfortunate that one of them has to lose because of, the dynasty and the history. But we're also in a new league, and, Denver is the defending champs, and, they're going for their back-to-back. You got Dallas looking good with Kyrie and Luka. You got Phoenix, which shouldn't be a 7 seed. You know what I mean? So, there's a lot of talent that's happening and a lot of things that's happening in the West. And so a new storyline, a new narrative, or, one of the veteran teams being an upset team that we never imagined. So matchups are going to be great, and I'm just looking forward to it. Yes, it's unfortunate, but that's just how the game go. You know what I mean? Yeah. If it was based on popularity, then it'll be a different sport,
Yeah, it looks like we're going that way, and it's going to be super fun. I got to ask you a question from your playing days on behalf of our producer. Producer Aaron is a big-time Warriors fan. He's a big fan of yours as well. He needs you to tell us the story from the playoffs, the dunk over Andre Kirilenko in round 2, 2007, the We Believe Warriors team. Was that your favorite dunk ever?
That's probably one of my most popular dunks ever.
Yeah, he's smiling.
I dunked on Mutombo, which is that's my good buddy, my big homie. Dunked on Garnett. That was probably one of my favorites. But I would say the Kirilenko dunk was probably the most epic because of how it happened, when it happened in the playoffs, and nobody expecting, that to actually happen. And it was all because Kirilenko winked at me. He winked at me. It was it was one of those winks. If you come back in the hole and try and lay the ball up, I'm gonna smack that shit to half court. You know what I mean? Enjoy this win. But if you do it again, I'm gonna block it. And so I was well, according to my calculations, get off the floor faster than he can.
Mathing.
Yeah, you know what I mean? If it all works right again, I'm gonna act like I'm going to lay it up, and I'm gonna try him. And that's what happened. And so when I got the step, I think it was on Derek Fisher or D. Will, I did the actual same move that I did before. And so he thought I was gonna lay it up, and I was like, uh-oh, I might have a chance. And then when I dunked on him, I was like, oh shit. Like, I got him. I don't know what to do now. Like, I don't know how to celebrate.
Listen,
Down,
John took it.
or something like that, but I played it cool. Sorry about that, Ashley.
No, you're fine. Listen, John took it back to the West Coast, so I'm gonna take it back to the East Coast. You mentioned just how much admiration you have for Jalen Brunson. There's been a lot of conversation about the Knicks and can they win when your 1A guy is the size that Jalen Brunson is. And they say that, listen, Steph Curry's the exception. He's not the rule. And you can't win when your best player is not your biggest player. Where do you stand on that argument? Do you think that in a league where scoring matters so much, does size knock that down and supersede that?
I just think when you talk about, capacity and, as you get into deeper rounds, the fouls, the intensity, the holding. If you're a great scorer, you look at Allen Iverson, he went to the finals, you know what I mean? And not with a real primary, secondary scorer on this team. It's really going to be a team effort. Like, even when you look at the Warriors and the great work that Steph Curry was doing, it was Klay Thompson, it was Iguodala, it was, David West, it was, Kevin Durant. Like, they had other players who could score, Sean Livingston, who had size, right? And so, that is not so much a concern of mine, but it would be a concern as you get into later rounds and having a little guy to bring the ball up the court, have to go to the hole, have to get fouled, have to hit every big shot, but it's a testament of, what Jalen Brunson has earned himself.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think the Knicks got to roll with that. You got to roll with your best player and you got to protect him and you got to make sure that, all the other guys on the team can also step up. So it takes some pressure off of him because the more he's going to be asked, to take them out of pressure situations or put them in, basketball games with his play is going to be a physical game each round you go. So, can he endure that and be able to continue to play how he is? Can other people step up? It'll be incredible.
So if you can give me a yes or no answer right now, today, can the Knicks win a championship as currently constructed with Jalen Brunson being their best player? Would you say yes or would you say no?
Just tell her yes, because
no,
otherwise it's going to ruin her day.
This is a serious question because there are people who think it's virtually impossible. I'm curious on where you stand. Yes,
I would say yes, it's possible because you're playing in an era in the league where it's more team oriented. You know what I mean? You have more weapons. And so, at any moment, DiVincenzo or Josh Hart or, someone like that could take just as many shots as, Jalen Brunson, right? And we're watching a different league, right? It's not the pressure of Vince Carter having to perform each and every night at a high capacity and be carrying the team or a T-Mac, you know what I mean? Or even an Iverson, you know what I mean? Like, these guys have help and they have really talented players that can take, the majority of the shots, depending on, who gets hot. So Jalen Brunson just got to be him and the Knicks just got to elevate up and above around him. So it just makes his job easier because, they can win a championship like this, constructed like this in this league when you think about it, right? Denver won with a point center. Right. And you didn't think that Denver had, a lot of people didn't think Denver had a chance till they actually saw them in the finals and was like, oh shit, they have more than a chance, to win it. Right. But before that, nobody was picking Denver to come out of the West. Right. And it's like, can you win a championship with a center who plays point guard? You're like, well, obviously you can, you know what I mean? So rules are changing. Teams are getting smaller. The Knicks have the size to do it, and they have the great talent and makeup, and they have the number one player. They have a number one guy that they can trust that's going to put them in great situations at the end of the game.
You made her day.
Once a Knick, always a Knick.
Made her day.
John, listen, stay in your lane, okay?
Listen, I think the Knicks are good. I just think it's hilarious.
Combo for you.
Put poor Baron Davis on the stage here to ask him if they could win, but yeah, they could do it.
Listen, VD, it's always a pleasure getting to talk to you and pick your brain. And thank you to Simple Human for letting us do that. Let us know one more time where we can see all of the social and, different things you have going on with the brand.
Yeah, it's at my Twitter or X, Twitter formerly known as Twitter, currently known as X, at Baron. And then I am Baron Davis on IG, at Simple Human. Look out for the content. We'll be having it on our YouTube channel on Slick, SLIC, Sports Lifestyle and Culture. And thank you for having me. And tell moms that we appreciate her. We're gonna make her a Simple Human ambassador. We'll make y'all Simple Human ambassadors. And we got new drops or new content. We're gonna send you all of our fun little packaging, and we appreciate, thanks for having me on the show.
That will make her day.
Thanks,
I
Baron.
will make sure I tell her. Listen, for myself, John Gonzalez, and Baron Davis, this has been another episode of Beyond the Arc. Make sure you guys tap in tomorrow because John and Bill are holding down the fort, and you never know who may stop by. See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, guys.